Welcome to Call to Post, the Off the Bench Podcast Network feature dedicated to thoroughbred racing. Hosting today's show will be Brandon Ferst, and Brandon will be joined by Raider Jim Martinez. Grab some paper, make some notes, enjoy yourselves. Let's talk thoroughbred racing. Riders up.
What is up, everyone? Brandon Ferst, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench Podcast Network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are First. Welcome into another edition of the original Call to Post here on the network. We break down everything that horse racing has to offer. And my goodness, folks, we might be over the last few weeks, we talked about how great a show it was going to be. And they've always been great, don't get me wrong, but we have a huge schedule to break down, probably only second to the Breeders' Cup here in a couple months. Saratoga with 6 grade 1s on Saturday, including their big summer meet race of being, of course, the Travers. So 4 total win and you're in races, 3 at Saratoga, 1 at Del Mar. We'll break all those down and others. To help me do it is my co-host, as always, Raider Jim Martinez. You can find Mr. Martinez at Raider Jim 1090. How you doing tonight, sir?
Hey, Thursday afternoon, the sun's out and racing season is getting underway. I was excited because football was going to start. And then I start looking at the race calendar and I look at the race calendars to come up all the way to the Breeders' Cup. And my goodness, it is going to be.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of two parts of the season, if you will. The early part of the year, obviously, a lot of the focus is on the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks. And, there are a couple qualifiers, for the Breeders' Cup. But once the Kentucky Derby and even really the Triple Crown finishes up, all eyes kind of turn on to these challenge races, these qualifying races, and eventually, of course, we'll get you into the Breeders' Cup. We will break down all of those. But first, we have to get a little bit of reminiscence from Raider Jim Martinez. He was at Del Mar on Saturday, meeting all kinds of jockeys. Great pictures on Twitter and Instagram. Give him a follow to go check him out with. Seems like every jockey available. Raider Jim was there. But Raider Jim, what were your thoughts on the Saturday at Del Mar?
Well, yeah, it was the first time I had got a chance to get the track this season, and it was picked a better day. It was not that hot. The weather was perfect. The crowd was very manageable, but I made a point to get there early, and I was very fortunate because it just happened. They were doing a small press thing out in the area with some of the owners, some of the riders, some of the sponsors, and with that, next thing you know, there's Flavien Prat standing there, doing his best to talk with me as I was doing my best to talk with him. As French as his friend, Umberto Rispoli came up, Jessica Piper came up, and I had a chance to meet her. But then I think the highlights had to be, Joe Bravo came out of the jockey room just to introduce himself, and I thought just a really, really special thing. And as he went back in to get ready for his race, next thing you know, Kent DeSormo walks out, and I just mentioned to him that I had followed his career for a long time, and he was one of my favorite riders. And he thanked me and said, I got to get in there. I'm going to be back. I'll talk to you a little bit. And sure enough, he came out and just stood there and chatted for a little bit. I go to a music trade show annual. And opposed to athletes who tend to be either unapproachable or full of themselves because they read all their press, one thing I found out is musicians are not that way. You can go and sit and chat with Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers, and he just sits and talks to you. Just very approachable, personal, nice guys. These jockeys, every single one of them, they stopped, they talked, they shook your hand, thanked you for being racetrack. So it was just a great experience, and the races did not disappoint. Flavien Prat was just burning it up on Saturday. Then Mr. Baffert was even there. So I didn't get a chance to. I saw him on the screen, but one of his horses did win, and he was there in the winner's circle. But the TVG Pacific Classic did not disappoint. The Del Mar Handicap, the last race of the day, did not disappoint. It was just fantastic.
Definitely. And, for that day, obviously at Del Mar, Pacific Coast Classic or Pacific Classic Day is the big one. And pretty much every year that is the biggest day. Obviously this year with the Breeders' Cup coming, it'll be kind of have to settle for third in that. But I agree, that's the one thing I've kind of noticed, on the track, going to the track, is those jockeys, they obviously they know that, they're very good at their craft. But like you said, it's not athletes who are, full of themselves, who, go, what, I'm only going to deal with, either, agents or newspaper people, or, I'm not going to deal with the, just the fans, because sometimes, I'll be honest, I'm sure they've had some unfortunate run-ins with, fan is short for fanatic. So, but definitely that's the one thing I've seen in the paddock, is they are very, very approachable, very good guys, and gal, I should say. I will, obviously, if we are talking about Del Mar, we will talk about the unfortunate situation that did happen on Sunday. I don't know what it was, the race right before the feature race. Unfortunate situation. 2 horses went down. I believe 7 jockeys in total went down, along with 4 that had to be taken to the hospital. All were, I believe, out within 24 hours, the jockey wise. I don't think the horses made it, but it's been an unfortunate situation, but it's been a little while. You don't ever want to have these options. You don't ever want this thing to happen, ever, obviously. But Del Mar does obviously have a good track record of keeping the horses safe. This is just an unfortunate situation in my mind. I haven't seen the video. I don't think it's readily available for obvious reasons. But when you kind of hear about horses going down, I don't want to say jockey fault or anything like that, once again, because I haven't seen the video. I'm not going to do anything, but this, I don't believe, was an issue of, the course or the track not being up to date. It's just, it's an unfortunate situation. We saw it in the, was it the Whitney? Or it was Midnight Bourbon. And then we of course saw that unfortunate situation where the rider was unseated from Midnight Bourbon. That was not nearly as kind of dramatic as what we saw at Del Mar, but we are doing our duty here. Very, very unfortunate situation. Unfortunate for the horses. Luckily, it wasn't worse. All the jockeys are at least out of the hospital. I assume are, ready, or at least working towards their next mounts. But Raider Jim, you were actually the one who kind of brought it up to me. I'll tell you what, I don't know if this was by design or I guess my inability to find it, but if you wouldn't have brought that up, I would still be, I guess, unaware of the incident. Like I said, I don't think, Del Mar is going to toot their horn about it, but still was a little, wasn't easy to find or anything like that. But Raider Jim, what were your thoughts on the unfortunate situation we saw on Sunday?
Yeah, it was just by chance. I happened to turn on the Sunday and talking about the lead stories, the main stories, and then the scroll at the bottom, all of a sudden I see, of jockeys, a couple horses go down at Del Mar, and it just keeps scrolling. It's like how that wasn't a lead story because of the great safety record that they had that track. Craig Data was very proud about that. It had nothing to do with the condition of the track. And if I understood correctly, it was not one of the seasoned jockeys that was on the mount. One of the mounts clipped the horse in front of him. And when that happened, both horses went. That's how, then it just turned into a high 5 traffic mess. So, yeah. And what I understand is the condition of the was strictly limited to or isolated to lacerations, nothing that was going to prevent them from going out and continuing training and racing. And as you already, the jockeys, thankfully, everybody was 100%. I know one of the Ortiz brothers, I can't remember which one it was that got dumped. And the biggest problem with him was he wanted to come back to the track and race the next day. They said, you know, you might want to take a day off. And I think it's one of those situations where if they have a situation like that, then they had to take a day off. And I don't remember if that was Aqueduct or Saratoga. It was one of the back tracks. But yeah, I mean, these guys are just gamers. They do not want to miss a mount. So
No.
hopefully I have not seen a of it. I'm sure and that might be the Racing Association is not releasing that at this time. California Racing.
To be honest, I've kind of seen the same thing in baseball. The Chris Bassett injury, the pitcher, he took a line drive to the face. I haven't gone looking for it. But normally in those situations, you know, social media, I don't want to say it's right in front of you, but you'll find it. If even if you're not looking for it, that's not the situation. Probably, like I said, you probably go on YouTube and find someone who went back and showed you the replay through their phone. But like I said, very similar here. There's not really a need for that. You know, if that's what you enjoy, all right, whatever, that's fine. But I guess you're going to have to find it other ways. But it is good news that those horses, you know, unfortunately, I did hear 2 horses go down. I just unfortunately assumed the worst, but that's good to hear that they did. You know, obviously, look, lacerations still something that those horses have to deal with, but nothing too major. But that is the perfect segue. Normally, when we do dive in, we'll leave the Del Mar kind of as the main event. With all due respect to the Seaside Oval, we're going to be kind of leaving those for the big grade ones at Saratoga. So we will start on Saturday at Del Mar. It is going to be a win and you're in race into the dirt mile. It's going to be the Pat O'Brien Stakes, going, of course, a mile on the dirt, or excuse me, 7 furlongs on the dirt. So just shy of a mile. And that is going to be going off about 6:35 on the West Coast, 9:35 on the East. Do the math in between, but this will get you into the big ass fans dirt mile on November 6th, I believe. It'll be that Saturday, of course, at Del Mar. Raider Jim, I will give you the honors to start us off on the Pat O'Brien.
Yeah, familiar names in this one. Rocket is one of those familiar names, running out of the 9 post with Laurent Giroux. He's back. He's going to be back again weekend. Peter Miller's the trainer at 5-2 right now, but I'm saying definitely has a shot on this one. The horse I think I'm going to lean towards and definitely have on is the 8 Flagstaff. Flagstaff right now is 3-1. John Sadler's the trainer and ridden by Jersey Joe. And this horse has a good chance to definitely finish in the money and win the race. Also like 8 Rings. 8 Rings is Bob Baffert and Abel Cedillo is going to be on that one. Those would be the 3 that I would look at. I haven't picked yet I haven't picked a horse to fill in, but I'm sure you have one that you can add to the card. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, for me, first and foremost, obviously CZ Rocket, I think at this moment is the favorite. A very, very good horse. However, I don't want to say I have a bad taste in my mouth, but you know, the last time we talked about this horse, we were very high on it going into the Bing Crosby. And you know, it was the favorite. I think it was you know, I think 5-2 as a matter of fact, maybe 3-2, and ran okay, but didn't run well enough. It was, of course, Dr. Scheibel. I believe we called that one. So, you know, unless that number goes up a little closer to 4-1, I'll move away from that. The horse that I'm actually, first of all, I agree with Flagstaff. I'm a big fan of consistency, both on the horse racing and just in life in general. I tell people this when I bartend. You know, look, if a customer comes in and they're always an a-hole to me, that's fine. I'll deal with that. It's the people who are kind of up and down. Those are the ones you don't really know how to deal with. And for Flagstaff, this horse in its last 12 runs has been at the lowest on the buyer score, running a 90. Last time out in the True North at Belmont, it did run a 101, just below Ferenz Fire, or just second to Ferenz Fire by a length and a half. Obviously, this is a horse that's been on the East Coast for the first part of the year. However, if you kind of look at the way this horse has ran, This is kind of got to be considered somewhat of a West Coast horse. 5 runs at Del Mar, 4 of them have been in the money. I do have kind of a, maybe long shot pick, and it's right above. It's Backyard Ride with JJ Hernandez. This is a horse that last time out was in that Bing Crosby, ran in 90, wasn't fantastic. But I do go back to Thor's Echo back on June 12th at Santa Anita. This is a horse that was obviously the favorite in that race. It was an ungraded stakes race, so we were talking about jumping up in class. But that horse ran a 104, and it was at 6 furlongs. So this horse will be stretching out to an extra furlong. Probably a reason why you do see the 8-1. But I really do like Flagstaff as well. And you kind of brought up 8 Rings. And those are kind of the 4 that I've been keeping an eye on. Mosa is another horse to maybe wonder about, but this is a situation. It's been a bit of a tough year for Momosa. 6 runs, only 2 wins, and 2 second placers. So. Anything else on that one, Raider Jim? Sorry.
We had a delay.
Yeah. No problem. But yeah, did you have anything else to add on the Pat O'Brien?
On the Pat O'Brien, no. I think we're good to go. Flagstaff's easy. 8 Rings, those are the ones I'm looking at as I go over here. Another one that does kind of stand out if I'm looking for an underneath to fill in. Might want to be How Be It at 6-1. Kyle Frey's having a great summer at Del Mar. He's going to be the jockey. Mark Glatt's the trainer. Doesn't run shabby, has some good speed to it. Is a West Coast horse, has done Santa Anita May, June, and then Del Mar on July the 25th. Been in the money each of those 3 times, winning the last 2 times out at 6.5 furlongs. So no surprise if How Be It, the number 2 horse, doesn't finish in the money.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting run there. Once again, that will get you a ticket into the Dirt Mile on that Saturday of Breeders' Cup weekend. Now we are turning our attention to Saratoga, where I'm just doing some rough math right now. We're probably looking at around 3, let's call it 5 million in these 6 races. All grade 1s. The lowest purse we will be talking about from here on out is going to be 500,000. The last race we'll talk about, the Travers, is a cool 1.3. But we will start with the grade 1 Ballerina. It will be race number 7 on the program. About 3 o'clock on the East Coast, noon on the West Coast. This will get you a ticket into the Filly and Mare Sprint. And I'll take the opening on this one. Obviously, the heavy favorite here is the 1 horse Gamine. You, of course, have a Bob Baffert kind of making a somewhat return to the show, if you will, bringing out some of those big horses. A lot of runners this weekend at Saratoga for Mr. Baffert. But Gamine, I mean, what more can you say about this horse? This is a horse that pretty much lives in the high 90s, has taken a couple steps back. 8 or 9 career runs, 8 of them have finished in the winner's circle. The only time it did not finish in the winner's circle, it was the Kentucky Oaks last year, where She Dares the Devil was the horse that kind of, we were talking about whether or not it would be Gamine or Swiss Skydiver. And sure enough, She Dares the Devil came in and said, no, I'll be that fly in everyone's champagne. But 3 to 5, you're going to have to pay some good money to get paid on that Gamine. The 5 horse Sconson is the only reason I'm kind of, look, it's 9-2. This is a horse that's ran in similar races with Gamine, has never beaten Gamine, but has been close. The last time they met was at, let's see, a grade 1 at Churchill in May. And Sconson was a length and a half off of Gamine. That's as close as it's gotten to Gamine, and really as close as anyone's got to Gamine. And then the last horse I kind of want to talk about is Cece. You got Michael McCarthy and Victor Espinosa teaming up This is a horse that will make its Saratoga debut. Kind of been a bit of a world traveler, a lot of, we got Santa Anita, Keeneland, Churchill Downs, even Del Mar last year. So this is a horse that's been all over. This year has been 2 for 3 about getting in the winner's circle this calendar year. CC at 4-1 is definitely a horse to watch. The unfortunate part of this is I just don't know if there is a horse that can beat Gamine if Gamine is on its, even B game. But Raider Jim, what are your thoughts on the grade 1 ballerina handicap?
Yeah, this is definitely Gamine's race to win, Gamine's race to lose. John Velasquez bought back 3 to 5 right now. I do have CC, the 7 horse, as my second pick. Last time out was at the winner circle at this distance. Speeds, it ran a 109, which is very respectable. Now, the horse I like in a 3 spot here, or definitely on the card underneath, it's going to horse is Estilo Talentoso. It's going to be Jose Ortiz. Juan Arriagada is the trainer. 8 to 1, but has in the money the last 3 times out at the distance, has run 103, 111, and a 96. I think this horse is going to surprise people. For this fill in on the bottom of a ticket, definitely want to be conservative if you're looking for exacta and you're going to box a couple things with Gamine, because the money to be made here, you've got a bucket of money to put down on Gamine. It's going to be what kind of combos can you do with exactas, trifectas, that type of a thing. Wisconsin is the other horse I have down to. So you got the Ortiz brothers on my ticket probably. Irad's riding Wisconsin and 9 to 2. As you said, last 3 times out money, slightly, let's see, 7 furlongs, 6.5 furlongs, 6 furlongs, good speeds though. So it's Gamine, CC, Talentoso, and Wisconsin are the 4 horses I have in this race.
Yeah, and just to kind of, I guess, exercise the dominance that Gamine has had, this is a horse, obviously, we'll take the Kentucky Oaks out of it, still ran in 96, but we'll take the Kentucky Oaks out of it. In its 8 wins, it has, the closest any horse has been was Wisconsin at a length and a half. This is a horse last time out, in the Great Lady, which was a grade 2, they won by 10 lengths, and this is a horse, even going back to the grade 3, I'm looking at the odds here on this, and it came off at 0.05 to 1. I don't even know the math on that. But that was another one, wins by 5 lengths. So this is a horse, once again, there are a lot of times where I'm going to sit there and say, look, those numbers, you could probably find some value elsewhere. If you do, you're going to probably need to fill out a place show bet, at least I believe. I don't know if there's anyone that can get within this horse. It is a bit of a long layoff. It's about almost 2 months. Let's call it 6-7 weeks for Gamine, but I don't think that is going to be a problem. You find yourself, the hardest part of this race might be is trying to find, a reason not to pick Gamine. But the odds might be enough. Like I said, if you have maybe triple digits to throw down, you'll make a couple bucks. But unless that's the case, you're going to need to try to find the place show picks here in this one. But once again, that was the ballerina that will get you into the filly and mare sprint on Breeders' Cup weekend. So we'll see if Gamine can do what we expect her to do, or if we will see another kind of, if Gamine doesn't win, it's going to be a pretty big payout. That is for sure. So moving on to race number 8 on Saratoga's card. It is the Ferrego Stakes, and it is going off about 340 on the East Coast, 1240 on the West Coast, 7 furlongs on the dirt, $600,000 purse. Raider Jim, I'll let you get us started on the Ferrego.
So the one I'm seeing on this one is the 4 horse Mind Control, 7 to 2 right. Velasquez, the jockey, Todd Fletcher, the trainer. averaging 100 plus on the last 3 E-speeds at 7 furlongs. So it distance, it runs fast at the distance, and you cannot overlook Whitmore. An in the money threat that ran E97 at this distance, in the money the last 3 times. 4-1 right now. Joel Rosario's the jockey. Ron Moquette is the trainer. And then a horse that I'm familiar with, really, the 8 horse Fire Ferent on July 4th, placed at this distance. And Fire Ferent is going to go off at 6-1 on Saturday. That's the number right now. Jose is going to be at the jockey. Kelly Breen is the trainer. And number 3, another horse that you and I have talked about more than one time on this program, Lex. 9-2. Jose Lescano is going to be the jockey. Jack Sisterson is the trainer. Runs well on the dirt, and at 6 furlongs, 16 speed. At 7 did a 97. So definitely has the speed and what it takes to finish in the money. So it's Mind Control. First, number 2, Whitmore. 8, Fire Ferens underneath with number 3, Lexitonian.
Yeah, you kind of hit it all on the head there. I'll kind of throw Mischievous Alex into that as well. Last time out, not great. Look, this is kind of the Vanderbilt handicap, sequel, if you will. You're going to see a lot of those same horses that ran in the Vanderbilt at Saratoga pretty much a month ago, running here. Mischievous Alex ran probably one of its worst runs, at least according to the buyer score. Now, the one thing I will say, this horse seems to be a lot better at least at 7 furlongs. At the grade 1, we go back to the Carter, where this horse was a heavy favorite. It did beat out Mind Control at 6-1. That's definitely something to keep your eye on. I still kind of go back to that Carter and look at that 109 run that it had at Aqueduct. And that, look, that'll get you a win if you can repeat that. You already kind of talked about Whitmore, and this is obviously the horse that is, or at least coming into this calendar year, was the kind of best or the top sprinter in the world, or at least in North America. But the big question was, okay, it's going into year number 8. When is this horse going to, go full-time stud? A horse that's won $4.4 million over 42 career runs. Definitely a horse to keep an eye on at 4-1. But for me, I actually think Lexitonian is the horse here to beat. But I do feel like that might be a little bit of a recency bias, a situation of looking at what this horse did against Whitmore, what it did against, Mind Control, a couple other of these horses. The one thing I will say, though, is Lexitonian ran in the Metropolitan at Belmont in June 5th. It ran a 26. That might be the lowest number I've ever seen from any horses or any races that we actually talk about here. I'm sure there's some optional claiming 26 numbers out there, but we don't really focus on those on this podcast. That needs to change. This obviously it did somewhat come back to normal with that win in the Vanderbilt for Lexitonian. But that's the one thing that I do kind of worry about. That is, a 26. That's not good in any stretch, at any distance, at any race, at any grade. But has come back, like I said, and put up a 102, which was its best run to date. But it's going to be really interesting. Mind Control is definitely another one to keep an eye on, especially considering it did beat Ferenz Fire in the John A. Nerude a little bit earlier. Actually, no, it's about almost 2 months ago. Well, let's call it 6 weeks, July 4th, in that John A. Nerude. Mind Control was able to beat Ferenz Fire, which, as you kind of talked about, is another horse we've definitely talked about in the past and still talk about here at 6-1. But this is a definite race where you have a ton of experience. A lot of these, Whitmore with 42 runs, Lexitonian with 19 runs, and then even the last horse I just talked about, Ferenz Fire, with 35 runs. This is a very experienced group of horses, and a really good group of horses. I'm really excited to kind of see Whitmore, see if the old man, as they all say, can keep doing what that horse does. But that is what we have for you on the Forigo. Moving on to the, let's see, race number 9, the H. Allen Jerkins Memorial Stakes. This is going to be, again, 7 furlongs on dirt for 3-year-olds only. So you're going to be looking at some of these horses that we talked about maybe earlier in the year while they got ready for the Derby or Oaks. And now they're kind of getting ready for, they hope, some sort of Breeders' Cup race. But Raider Jim, I will give you the honors on the Allen Jerkins Memorial Stakes.
Good field, fast. This one's going to be over. Don't blink. You're going to miss this one. Favorite on this one is going to be the 2-horse Jackie's Warrior, Joel Rosario, Steve Asmussen, North America's most winning trainer. He's going to probably end up in the winner's circle, or definitely is the favorite to end up in the winner's circle right now. But he by Mike Smith riding Life is Good, the 6th horse at 8-5, trained by Todd Pletcher. Then you're going to have Following Sea, the 4-horse at 5-1 was one that I like with Joska's board, another Pletcher entry. And then underneath, I think you have to pay attention to the horse on Drain the Clock, even though it's 6-1. Clock has a lot of potential, and Irad Ortiz on the saddle. Sappy Joseph is the trainer. I think it will probably come down to a nice match race between Jackie's Warrior and Life is Good. And but again, Following Sea and Drain the Clock, two you have to consider putting on your ticket, make combination there.
Definitely. I'm actually very bullish on Drain the Clock. Look, the last 2 races, it was I think that might be the Warren Stevens. So the last 2 runs at Belmont and Saratoga, it's been Jackie's Warrior and Drain the Clock 1-2. Drain the Clock won the grade 1 back in on June 5th. And Jackie's Warrior got the best of Drain the Clock and Crowded Trade at Saratoga, going 6.5 furlongs. For Jackie's Warrior, you want to talk about bad taste. I normally never ever bet on horses that are even money or even 3-2, anything like that, because you do have to put a lot of money on that. Well, last year I kind of broke my rule. I was that guy who was all over Jackie's Warrior in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and it didn't really perform. And since then, I feel like I kind of get away from that horse. Now, this horse can go out and do what it did to get it into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, then I think, kind of get me back on board. But I agree with you. Following Sea is another one at 5-1 that you can fill out your rankings or your ticket with, if you will. And this also was a horse that ran in the Haskell. I talked earlier that horse finished 3rd behind Hot Rod Charlie, Mandaloon, and essentially Hot Rod Charlie, but of course Hot Rod Charlie was disqualified. That was the race I was kind of quoting earlier, with Midnight Bourbon that kind of unseated the jockey. And don't worry, we're going to be talking. I can't wait to talk about Midnight Bourbon for it seems like the 23rd time this year, here a little bit later. But Following Sea is definitely one to keep your eye on. And then obviously Life is Good. You kind of talked about that. Look, anytime Mike Smith gets a you're going to keep your eye on. And look, Life is Good is a career undefeated. You're taking a big step up here. Del Mar, obviously, and then won the Sham, beating Medina Spirit, by the way. The last 2 times out, Life is Good has beat Medina Spirit. So you got to keep your eye on that. At 8-5, though, I do think Drain the Clock and Following Sea have more value. I don't know if they'll end up in the winner's circle, but I think at the end of the day, they're going to pay just a little bit more no matter where they end up on that tote board. But this is going to be a really, really good, interesting race. I love these 3-year-old kind of later in the season runs, because I remember talking about Drain the Clock going into the Kentucky Derby, or at least those qualifying races. And this is definitely a horse kind of maybe been off of our radar since then, but is right back on now. And Jackie's Warrior is always, worth the price of admission, just because it is, for the most part, going into last year, I would say that was the top juvenile. I mean, it was less than even money in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile obviously didn't get the job done. It was Essential Quality and Hot Rod Charlie who got the job done in that Breeders' Cup Juvenile. But it's going to be a lot of fun in this one. No winning you're in on the Alan Jerkins Stakes, but the Personal Ensign, which is race number 10, going a mile and an eighth on the dirt for 4-year-old fillies and up. This will get you, 4-year-old fillies and up, $600,000 purse. This will get you into the Longines Distaff, where we've already probably seen Latruska. And then we're going to probably see Latruska try and win. I really do feel like Latruska is essentially just trying to just get all of those, Willy Wonka golden tickets, if you will. This is a horse that's been on absolute fire. It is the 6th horse currently, 6-5. And look, if you can get this horse at 6-5, there's pretty good value there. You won't make a ton of money, but this is arguably the best filly in the world right now. I know Malathat would probably just, looked over and said, excuse me, but Latruska, you look at this lifetime, 20 career runs, 15 have ended in the winner's circle. That is incredible. Not a huge amount of money, 1.6 million, obviously relatively that is a lot of money, but in, some of these other horses that are in year number 5 with 20 or with 15 wins, a little closer to the $3 million mark, but it's going to be Latruska that has to be beaten, I believe, and a horse that I think is the unofficial horse of this podcast. It is the 4-horse Swiss Skydiver, a very quick turnaround. This is a horse that ran in the Whitney back in August 6th. I shouldn't say back in August. We're still in August, Brandon, but back on August 7th. So a very quick turnaround. This is a horse that struggled in the Whitney, but that was a fantastic field. I still believe probably the best field we will see outside of a Breeders' Cup Classic race. But Swiss Skydiver at 7-2, that's good value right there. Another horse, the last one I'm going to talk about that has a lot of good value is the 3-horse Bonnie South. I really do think this is at being 10-1. I think it's a bit of an overreaction from how this horse ran last time out at Del Mar back in July. It struggled. It took a big step back after being in the high 90s. It ran only a 93, and as a less than even money favorite, it finished 8.5 lengths off the lead. So I understand the 10-1, but I think Bonnie South has a really good shot to end up on that tote board when it's all said and done, possibly behind, of course, Latruska and Swiss Skydiver. But Raider Jim, what are your thoughts on the Personal Ensign Stakes?
Yeah. Been doing a lot of reading on this one, and I will tell you, I would have thought, I know Latruska is the early morning line favorite at 6-5. Mentioned Irad Ortiz in the saddle, 6-5, but they're saying the horse to beat in this race could very well be, as time goes by, Mike Smith, Bob Baff, 6-1. They say that as time goes by, it's going to come out and really make a race of this one. So we'll see how that plays out. Swiss Skydiver, a little disappointing, but maybe not as overwhelming and powerful as we have expected at times when she's going to race. Horse that I'm going to put underneath on my ticket, and it's definitely taking a step up with the caliber of competition it's going to run, but it's going to be the 5-horse Royal Flag at 10-1. Joel Rosario, Chad Brown. This horse has made it to the winner's circle the last 3 times out. Money the last 3 times out. Winner's circle in July on the 25th at this distance, and ran an E-speed of 1, which is nothing to sneeze at. Great positioning from the 5 spot, and Chad Brown is going to know, and Rosario also. That's a great hockey trainer combination. So it's going to be Latruska as time goes by, Swiss Skydiver, but I think you have to fill in underneath somewhere with combinations. Use that Royal Flag. You're not wrong on Bonnie South either. That's a great horse with great potential, known to be a good closer, not the best closer, but good closer, and just runs smooth, consistent races. Running out of the 3 spot ought to be pretty good. Manuel Franco is going to be the jockey there. horse that's won $700,000 doesn't win $700,000 because it's not a good horse by any means. So
Yeah, and just to kind of follow up on that, time goes by. This is a, this is an American Pharaoh. Sire. The American Pharaoh was the sire, and you don't need to be the most diehard racing fan ever to know. Of course, American Pharaoh. Pretty much any time you do see an American Pharaoh sire, you're going to expect that at the very least this horse has a lot of potential, or they are expecting this horse to have a lot of potential. Very, very interesting because, like we said, I think any other chance or any other race, as time goes by, Bonnie South and even the other horse you talked about, Royal Flag, you're not going to get the numbers that these horses
Royal Flag.
Royal Flag, yes, thank you. And I mean, 6-1, 10-1, and 10-1 for those three horses. If you're a fan of those horses, you are loving this value. Unfortunately, there's those big bad bullies at the front with Swiss Skydiver and Latruska. We'll see how that goes, but it's going to be very interesting. Once again, that is the Personal Ensign Stakes. We'll get you into the Breeders' Cup Distaff, which I kind of joked earlier. I mean, it might be Latruska and one other person who ran in a qualifier that Latruska chose not to run in, because she, I think, has already won at least 2 tickets to the Distaff over the last couple months. So we'll see how that goes. The second to last race we're going to be talking about, the last Breeders' Cup qualifier, is the Resorts World Casino Sword Dancer. We'll just call it the Sword Dancer. It will get you into the Longines turf. This is going 1.5 miles on the turf. This is a 3-turn race. The way the turf is at Saratoga, they're running on the inner turf. So they got 3 full turns to go through. But this will, of course, like I said, get you into Breeders' Cup turf. But Raider Jim, I'll give you the honors on the Sword Dancer.
Yeah, I think the number 1 favorite here is 2-1 right now. Tribuhaven out of France, ridden by Flavien Prat, trained by Chad Brown. So I think they've got and can talk native tongue to this horse, and the horse is going to understand everything that's being said to it. So you got Flavien riding the horse on the rail, Tribuhaven. 2, Gufo at 3-1 with Joel Rosario on board. I think Gufo's got a good chance here. I don't that anybody's going to beat Tribuhaven. The horse you want to watch if you want to get a little more value and make sure you add on your ticket is the 6 horse Japan out of Great Britain. Ryan Moore is on board. We learned some lessons last year by not putting too much attention on the horses that came from overseas. Japan from Great Britain. Rock Emperor, the 3 horse out of Ireland, going to be ridden by Irad Ortiz, trained by Chad Brown. Right now, 6-1. And Channel Maker might be a consideration. Watch the numbers on Channel Maker right now. 8-1. I'm kind of surprised that it's 8-1. I thought it might be closer to 1, but that horse is trained by William Mott. So it's Tribuhaven, Gufo, Japan, underneath with Rock Emperor.
Yeah, I agree. The Tribuhaven here is definitely the class. Last 3 runs, pretty much at this somewhat distance, maybe a little less, but has all been in the 100s, the low 100s, 101, 103, 102. That will get the job done, I believe, if they can do that again. Gufo is also another one you talked about. I have my eye on. It is interesting with Japan. Obviously, the horse, not the country. It's going to be making its North American debut. It is Aidan O'Brien, who, of all the, I'll say, European trainers, is probably one of the few that I am familiar with. And a lot of the reason why is because, he's one of the few trainers that can bring horses, sometimes for these horses to come to North America, they're going to have to kind of obviously fall into a North American trainer's hands. Doesn't seem like that is the case here. Obviously, like you said, a lot of runs in Great Britain and Ireland. It is a little, how does that affect the horse? I don't think it will matter too much, especially considering this is a very, very talented horse. By no means is Europe less than North America. Maybe not the overall amount, but there are still some very, very good horses there. Just a little difficult for us North American fans to kind of fully dive into those when it comes to, figuring out, watching those races, things like that. But the one other horse I do want to bring up, and if you did bring it up, I do apologize, is the 7-horse Cross Border. This is a horse, once again, consistency. It's going to be in the 90s, from 95 plus. That's just what this horse does. It's ran 7 times on that Saratoga turf. It's won 6 of them and came in second on the only time it did not finish in the winner's circle. So a ton of familiarity for Cross Border to go along with, as I said, the consistency. Now, I will, full disclosure, you kind of look at the past performances. The last couple runs, this horse struggled a bit in the Turf Classic. And because of that, ended up kind of getting dropped down to the optional claiming ranks, and then ran well, but didn't win, which was a bit of a frustration there. But this horse then kind of got back into it. I think it's the Bowling Green down at up at Saratoga just about a month ago. This horse actually beat Rock Emperor as a 6-1. I'll say somewhat of an underdog there, paying very well, ran a 100 on the buyer score. So I really do think Cross Border is a horse for a place show bet. I think, it's going to have to get into the 105s to win this race, maybe even higher than that. But if this horse can run a 102, 104, I think you are going to cash in that place show bet. And like I said, at 4-1, maybe move a little bit more. But yeah, for Cross Border is definitely a horse I'm going to keep my eye on. But the one horse here, and I love that Flavian Pratt, speaking its native tongue to Trivia Haven, that's going to be very, very tough to beat this horse. A dominant horse on turf everywhere it's gone, North America and in Europe, and running at grade 1s pretty much its entire career. So a lot to look at here. Once again, that is the Sword Dancer that will get you in to the Longines turf. That is, of course, on Saturday for the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar. And now it is time for the main event, and the big one, really the main event of Saratoga's season. It is the Grade 1 Travers Stakes. $1.3 million will be paid out in purse in this one. 612 on the East Coast, 312 approximately on the West Coast. Do the math in between. 1.25 miles on the dirt. And this is one, obviously, you're going to see 3-year-olds. This is not a, you're not going to be able to win back-to-back Travers. You only get one chance to run in the Travers, and it's in your 3-year-old season. And this is going to essentially be, I don't want to say a Kentucky Derby, a Triple Crown 2.0, but you're going to hear a lot of the similar names that we talked about. And the first one you have to bring up is the 2-horse, Essential Quality. Obviously, is a horse that won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last year and put itself squarely in the front of, the Kentucky Derby expectations. Horse came off at just shy of 3-1 in the Derby. Didn't run terribly. Still ran a 100, finished 4th, only a length off of the lead. Obviously, we know what happened, with Medina Spirit. That horse may move up to 3rd when that's all figured out. But anyways, Essential Quality has followed that up with a dominant win in the Belmont, and then another dominant win in the Jim Dandy, where it beat Keep Me in Mind, and it beat, I believe it was Masquerade. Yeah, Mask Parade. So Essential Quality, definitely the horse to look at here. However, at 4 to 5 morning line, I think that could get, 1 to 5 by the time this goes off, because Essential Quality is kind of that name on everyone's list. Now, here we go again. Brandon talking about Midnight Bourbon. Get ready, folks. Here it is. This is the one horse it's going to be on the rail. It's 9-2 right now. Obviously, Steven Asmussen, the trainer, and Ricardo Santana Jr. on getting the mount. I should say this is a horse that, look, it's had 10 career runs and it's only won 2. And I don't want to say only. This is a horse that's ran pretty much in grade 3s, grade 2s, and grade 1s its entire career. And it's been pretty darn close. I go back to the Preakness. And obviously, look, Rombauer got the job done, beat out Medina Spirit, Medina Spirit, and of course, Midnight Bourbon. But Midnight Bourbon is just, it got better and better. Struggled in the Haskell, no doubt about that. Obviously, we talked about the horse, I don't know if the horse did it, but the jockey was unseated. So technically, that horse was disqualified. You can't finish a race without a jockey. So we don't have a buyer score there. But this is a horse for Midnight Bourbon. I'm just waiting for this horse to finally kind of break through so that I can go, okay, finally. And I don't know if this is the race to do it, but I definitely expect this horse to be in the money, right behind Essential Quality. Keep Me in Mind and Dynamic One are both 6-1. Similar situations for at least Keep Me in Mind has been running at grade 2s and grade 3s pretty much entire career. So, only one win in 10 career runs, but that with that, it's still collected over $650,000 in winnings. So you're kind of seeing the level of races this horse is entering into. The one I do kind of want to talk about is also Mask Parade. Finished had a really, I was impressed by this run. The buyers maybe didn't quite show it in the Jim Dandy where it ran in 93, but for that horse to come out at pretty much 5-1 and be right behind Essential Quality and Keep Me in Mind, that definitely kind of got me to nod my head and go, okay, this is a horse that, has the opportunity, has the potential to get there. But it's really, really hard. Gamine earlier, I think it was the Ballerina, and Essential Quality here. It's really, really hard to pick another winner that you really feel good about. Obviously, I love Midnight Bourbon, but he said that horse has had plenty of chances to bring down Essential Quality. It hasn't happened yet. But that 1-2 matchup might be interesting, but I think it's going to be one of those races where we're looking at place show tickets to kind of fill out who's behind Essential Quality. But Raider Jim, what are your thoughts on the Travers?
Number 2, Essential Quality, that circle. It should be Essential Quality, but what do you think about the rest of the card? Well, I've got the 3-horse Keep Me in 6-1, Joel Rosario. Robert Diodoro is the trainer. You mentioned Midnight Bourbon. Midnight Bourbon hasn't hit the winner's circle since January, I don't believe. And believe also made reference to, you didn't really want to allude to comparing it to the Kentucky Derby. The Travers known as the Midsummer Derby. So it's, think of it that way. And for the 9,500 races that Steve Asmussen has won, he's never been in the winner's circle at the Travers. So he's back again to try it one more time. Winner's circle, I don't know. He definitely has the shot to finish the money. Essential Quality is the favorite with Keep Me in Mind. I like the 6-horse Masquerade to fill out my ticket as far as the top 3 goes, or an combination. And another horse that you had already mentioned was Dynamic One. Dynamic One is out of Union Rags. Union Rags was no slouch. That's just, you talk about lineage. And at the same time, I say that lineage, let's see, Midnight Bourbon now. So sometimes the logic is there and it plays out, and sometimes it doesn't. You would think a horse that's out of Tiz now would be in the winner more consistently than what Midnight Bourbon has been. And everybody gets that break, everybody gets that race. Somebody asked me over the weekend, that was when we were watching about what had happened, the tragedy at Del Mar. And they said, do you think those horses ever know when they go out? Do they want, they're like, no, I'm not doing this again. Last time I almost got trampled. I don't want to do this anymore. Or, okay, I'm going to run, but I'm not going to fast. And, you wonder, did Midnight Bourbon get brushed in the Derby? I don't know how that works. I'm not smart enough to tell you that I know that there's a psychology horse. But horses know when to run from fire. Horses know how to get themselves out of the barn. Like that. Just interesting to see. I'm hoping Midnight Bourbon runs the race of races. Quite honestly, I think that I'd love to see Asmussen in the because he deserves to get all the accolades and all the trophies that he's deserving. But I think it's going to be Essential Quality, Masquerade. Keep me in mind. Urban, I hope, sneaks in there. And then again, I'm going to keep an eye on the numbers for Dynamic One, because again, that's another Todd Fletcher with Irad Ortiz. Only 160 million thus far, but 7 starts, 2 wins, 2 places. Masquerade, on the other hand, is 7 starts, 3 in the winner's circle, 2 shows, but has won $700,000. So it's got earnings. And I think that's what makes it a strong potential in this one. 1.3, as you said, on the table. It's going to be a great race. Long at Saratoga.
Yeah, this is a massive field. 6 grade 1s. Yeah, and it kind of ends or culminates, I should say, crescendos, whatever adjective you'd like to use, with, of course, the Travers being that while it's not a win and you're in, as I said, this is last week, Del Mar's summer season, their biggest day was Pacific Classic Day. That's their biggest race. Well, this is Saratoga's Pacific Classic Day, if you will. Of course, they call it the Travers Day. But one last thing on Midnight Bourbon, and I promise at least for a couple minutes, we'll stop talking about the horse. But maybe one thing that will, I guess, kind of slow me down on this is the fact that this horse has had a lot of different jockeys over the years, which, or at least over its runs, I shouldn't say years is plural, but over its last few runs, Joe Talamo had this horse for 3 runs in a row. And since then, this will be its 4th different run since then, and it'll be its 4th different jockey with Ricardo Santana Jr. I was very big in the Kentucky Derby when Mike Smith was on board Midnight Bourbon. I figured, wow, that's incredible, especially at 13-1. Obviously didn't get what needed to be done. And then it was Irad Ortiz in the Preakness. And that was, hey, even better, or maybe not even better, but that's also really, really good. Irad Ortiz is right there on the world stage right now. And with all due respect to Paco Lopez, took a little bit of a step back in that. And now we have Ricardo Santana Jr. So that is kind of another question of, is there a familiarity factor there? And I always talk about when you have 2 jockeys that have multiple opportunities for a mount, which one do they pick? Irad Ortiz picked Dynamic One over Midnight Bourbon. So there is that to think about. Obviously, you talked about Dynamic One. And to be completely honest, Midnight Bourbon, I don't know if I'm ever not going to talk about Midnight Bourbon. It's just, for whatever reason, this horse is just stuck in my mind. And whenever I see it, I'm like, hey, let's take 5 minutes and talk about this horse and waste everyone's time sometimes. But we'll see how it goes. At the end of the day, I think the key for Midnight Bourbon, I think you brought it up very well, is, and I kind of even brought up the Chris Bassett injury in baseball again, where you take the line drive to the face. A lot of it's the mental side of it. Now, he's got a heck of a recovery to go through. Don't get me wrong. I'm not discounting the surgeries and all that stuff. But if he wants to get back on that mound, the hardest part will be the mental side of standing on that mound and kind of remembering, oh, wow, I took a line drive to the face last time I did this. Does Midnight Bourbon maybe have those thoughts? Wow, the last time I got loaded into these gates, I something bad happened, or I took a little bit of a spill. It could have been a lot worse, So we'll see how that goes. But once again, I really do. It's hard to get away from Essential Quality. And it's not just the chalk talking here. It's the horse talking, because there's a reason that everybody else is pretty much 6-1. If Essential Quality runs its race, it's going to win by 3 or 4 lengths. And I cannot wait to see where this horse ends up, when it's all said and done in November. If this horse is going to make it into the Breeders' Cup, it's going to be very interesting. I will give a little bit of news. I did see that Mandaloon, that horse, obviously, a lot of people have jokingly said it's the luckiest horse in the world, where it finished 2nd in the Derby, and we do kind of expect eventually it to be called the Kentucky Derby winner once Medina Spirit is officially disqualified for the drug test. And then, of course, this is a horse that won the Haskell, where Hot Rod Charlie was disqualified. So 2 straight 2nd place finishes in big races that have turned into 1st place. Anyway, Mandaloon, a little bit of a knock. Their year is over. So they will be looking ahead to I want to say the Saudi Cup. It could be the Pegasus World Cup, but they're going to be looking ahead to next January. So we will not see Mandaloun in any Breeders' Cup races, at least according to their connections. And one last note, on Sunday, of course, as we've said numerous times, because of the PPs and because of the research we do, we can only really do on Saturday because we're recording on Thursday. But Medina Spirit will be running at Del Mar on Sunday, according to most people, obviously barring a late scratch. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on. Obviously, there will be a buzz in the paddock for that. All the baggage that Medina Spirit does bring, technically, that is the reigning Kentucky Derby champion. So whenever you get that at Del Mar, you're going to see some things going on. So going to be very, very interesting at Del Mar this weekend. But I believe a lot of eyes will be on Saratoga as well, with their 6 grade ones paying out nearly $5 million in purses. But Raider Jim, final thoughts for an absolutely packed week of races.
Yeah, before race 7 at Saratoga on Saturday, just for fun, if you have the time to do it, check out race 4. It's the Ball Stakes. It's a grade 2, $400,000. That's the small purse of the day, I guess you'd say. But the card I'm putting together happens to be, and they're all favorites. It's nothing, but I've got Tama here from France, California Queen, and Valladera out of Great Britain. That's and 3 horses ridden by Irad Ortiz, Flavian Pratt, and Joel Rosario in that order. All 3 horses trained by Chad Brown.
Wow.
Chad Brown's going to make money on race 4, the Ballston Spa Stakes, grade 2, $400,000. Fun. That's going to be a fun one. Tomorrow too, if people have time to get on and check Equibase or check TVG, the money starts tomorrow, and the going to start tomorrow at Charlestown. Charlestown has 2 races. That's out in Virginia or West Virginia. Charlestown has 2 races. There are 11 race and the 12. The 11 is the Charlestown Oaks. It's a grade 3, $400,000, 7 furlongs. And then race 12 is the Charlestown Classic, which is a grade 2, mile and an eighth, $800,000. So they know to not compete with Saratoga. They can get people to come down, spend the night probably, and still back up to Saratoga to catch a race there. But to check out the Charlestown races tomorrow. I have it on good authority that it's a pretty entertaining, some good races, and that these are going to be 2 of the best for the weekend.
Fantastic. Yeah, it never really stops, honestly. Monday and Tuesday might be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are a little slower, but Thursday through Sunday, you can turn on TVG and you're going to find a grade something, a graded stakes race somewhere around the country, or at least in North America. And once again, obviously, this Saturday at Saratoga, turn on TVG at about noon, and you'll be set, because that is going to be a fantastic field. And then you'll also be able to see the Pat O'Brien, which will be going off a little later, obviously on the West Coast. But yeah, you'll get the full 6 grade 1s, and even go a little earlier into Saratoga, the race you talked about. I even looked at the other ones. You got an optional claiming race, $105,000 optional claiming race. Like, yep, that must be on Saratoga's Super Saturday. That's a huge number for an optional claiming. So a lot of money going to be handed out at Saratoga. We got you ready for it. And as always, I know I probably sound like a broken record. Make sure that you follow Raider Jim on Twitter at Raider Jim 1090. That is the best follow you can have for horse racing on Saturdays, because you'll have your TBG up, you'll have your DRF out, and then eventually you're going to get a little ding about 20 minutes before the race, and Raider Jim is going to kind of come out and let you know where he's thinking with the fluid odds. Once again, you don't get a situation where, I locked in Midnight Bourbon at 9-2. That's great. But when that bell rings, whatever the odds are, that's what you're getting paid out on. And sometimes things change with that tote board. Make sure you give Raider Jim a follow at Raider Jim 1090. Feel free to give me a follow as well at First Report. But on Saturdays, I'm working, and I'm just retweeting what Mr. Martinez is putting out there. But thank you all so much for listening to a huge jam-packed episode of the original Call to Post presented by the First Off the Bench Podcast Network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are First. Thank you all again so much for listening, and we'll talk to you all very soon. It's time for you all to go wash your hands and stop hating everybody. Take care.
Bet smart, bet safe.